And by the way,
law and order crime.
107 days, way too many for anybody, but including her.
Right.
But the more they got to know her, the less they liked her. I've said this many times on this show. Other countries don't do this. They don't have years to run. They call an election, and they have an election in a month.
Ignore the influence of money. We should do that.
And that's going to be hard to get rid of. They tried. But, it's like you don't need 100 days. You need 107 days. You tell people your plan. This is what I am for. This is my thing. You're selling something. You're selling a vacuum cleaner. If I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, I'll tell you why I think it's best. When I tell you every goddamn day for 2 years? Did I tell you about the attachment that gets under the... Yeah, you did. You told me 1,000 times.
The political scene is lighting up over Kamala Harris's new book, but not for the reasons she might hope. It's not because she's laying out a bold vision for leadership or offering the long-awaited answers Americans have been asking for. Far from it. The attention comes because Harris is once again trying to reshape the past, offering excuses, adjusting timelines, and hoping the public will accept her latest rewrite of events. Let's just say Bill Maher wasn't buying it. On live television, he cut through her argument with a sharp dose of reality, and frankly, he had a point. Here's what Harris keeps circling back to, the number 107. That's how many days she claims she had to win voters over before her campaign fell apart. There just wasn't enough time, she insists. She says the odds were stacked against her, and she never got the chance to truly connect. Interesting, right? Until you think about it for about 10 seconds. Maher's response was blunt but accurate. You don't need 2 years to tell people who you are and what you believe, he said. Not even 107 days. What you need is a clear vision and the ability to communicate it. He compared it to selling a vacuum. If it's really the best one out there, you don't have to spend months knocking on doors. Show how it works, prove its worth, and people will decide for themselves. But Harris didn't do that. She had credentials, yes, but no message, no plan, no spark. She seemed to think qualifications alone would hand her the keys to power. Instead, the more voters saw of her, the less they connected. That's not a timing issue, it's a trust issue, a relatability problem, a leadership problem. And that's where Maher's larger point lands. He highlighted recent polling that shows an opening for Democrats. Trump's support has dipped among white voters, Black Americans, and Latinos by as much as 15 points. That's not nothing. It should be a political gift. Yet voters are still focused on real-world worries, immigration, crime, the economy, global conflict, and in those conversations, Trump still dominates the stage. Where it matters most, he's steering the narrative.
The violence and the crime, people just getting away with it, cashless bail, whatever. I want to see law and order, and I think that would be
Well, apropos to that, I'll bring up one last subject. Somebody didn't write this, but I want to say it because it's interesting. Some of the polling came out, and this is really I'm speaking with the Democrats especially, because Trump's numbers are down. They're down with Latinos, they're down with blacks, they're down 15 points with whites. And when whites say, you're not hip anymore, ooh. And yet, in the other poll, on issues, Trump's still winning. So this is your big opportunity, Democrats. He's down in the numbers, and you still can't.
Are they tackling the real challenges like inflation, border security, or finding workable answers to global conflicts? Not in the slightest. Instead, they're doubling down on cultural battles that only resonate within their own echo chamber. While Americans are crying out for relief and direction, the focus from Democratic leaders remains obsessively locked on Donald Trump, as if he were the center of the entire political universe. That's exactly why Bill Maher's remarks hit so hard. His message was clear. Democrats, you're blowing it. You might have the upper hand, he suggested, but you can't seem to score even when the other side is stumbling. And that's the painful truth. Republicans are commanding the conversation on every major front: immigration, foreign policy, crime, and the economy. Meanwhile, Democrats are clinging to their reputation as defenders of democracy, barely staying afloat. Even that edge is slipping away. Think about that for a moment. The very party that calls itself Democratic is struggling to maintain credibility on the core principle it's named after. This isn't just bad optics, it's an identity crisis. Something far deeper, far more existential is at stake.
When they ask who has a better plan, Republicans crushing it on crime, immigration, wars, the economy, even corruption. Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are stupid. 2 points on respect for democracy. Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on: more crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's...
It's clear that this situation goes far deeper than poll numbers. At its heart lies a crisis of identity. For decades, Democrats have branded themselves as champions of the everyday American, the protectors of civil rights, and the guardians of democracy itself. But that image has fractured. Years of identity politics, performative virtue signaling, and endless infighting have eroded public trust. Instead of projecting steadiness, the party now looks like a circular firing squad. Leaders and activists turning on one another while chasing applause from social media rather than focusing on the real priorities of working families. And that's why voters are pulling away. They no longer see leadership, they see obsession. To them, the Democratic Party seems consumed by one mission: defeating Donald Trump, while offering no fresh ideas, no broader vision. What remains isn't strategy, it's desperation. Clay Harris perfectly embodies this larger problem. Her new book was supposed to be a moment of reflection, a chance to acknowledge past failures and chart a better path forward. Instead, it reads like a patchwork of contradictions and excuses, lacking the humility, honesty, and accountability that real leadership demands.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107
No,
Days.
you didn't.
I did.
I'll say a lot of lies on this show, but I will take that. I will not accept that.
You have it. That's what I have to. But the point is, it's like, as you probably know, it's like a diary of what happened. But I was looking for, okay, and what's the plan for the future? There wasn't any, and she's just indicative of the party.
The timeline tells its own story, and it's not flattering. Harris keeps reshaping her own positions, seemingly abandoning stances she once championed in office. After years of avoiding confrontation with Biden when it mattered most, she now acts as if he barely exists. Then there's the startling revelation about Pete Buttigieg. In her book, Harris admitted she didn't choose him as her running mate because of his sexual orientation. She wrote it plainly, yet when Rachel Maddow pressed her on the topic, she suddenly backtracked, claiming that's not what she meant. She contradicted her own words in real time.
With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president, you're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president, to say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay, it's hard to hear.
No, that's not what I said, that he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for President of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for President of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk.
And here lies the fatal flaw. If you cannot stand by your own principles, why should anyone believe you can uphold your policies? It's nothing but political quicksand. Every explanation pulls her deeper. Every excuse chips away at credibility. Voters aren't naive. They can spot dishonesty in an instant. What's evident is that Harris is relying on rebranding as a survival tactic, not demonstrating genuine leadership. Strength isn't measured by shifting narratives or creative reinterpretations of the past. True leadership requires consistency, conviction, and the courage to own your choices, qualities that so far remain conspicuously absent.
By the way,
Law and order crime.
107 days, way too many for anybody, but including her. But the more they got to know her, the less they liked her. I've said this many times on this show. Other countries don't do this. They don't have years to run. They call an election, and they have an election in a month.
Ignore the influence of money. We should do that.
I'll give her this much. She seems to be stepping back from the woke positions that derailed her career. On paper, that looks like progress. But here's the problem. Instead of owning her mistakes and saying, I was wrong, I got swept up in the cultural chaos and lost touch with everyday Americans, she frames it as if she never agreed with those stances at all. That's revisionist history, plain and simple. In other words, It's gaslighting, and it doesn't work. Confidence can be rebuilt if she truly wants it, but only through unflinching honesty. Admit where you went wrong, confront the missteps. A realistic, forward-looking plan won't matter if she continues to pander to the same woke crowd she once championed. And it only gets worse. Her response when asked whether she would back radical figures like Zoran Mandy in New York was telling. She claimed it wasn't his beliefs that concerned her, it was his vision. Yet,
by the way, that's one of the reasons she lost.
She's rewriting history in the book too. She's now against men and women's sports. Like, come on. Like, they tried to dismantle Title IX against women when she was vice president.
Right. I mean, that's just one of many examples.
She could have had 701 days and would have still lost that race.
But you're right. The data says it's cost of living, it's inflation, it's immigration, illegal immigration, all those things. Everything else is at the bottom.
because he's a Democrat, she supported him. That's it. And that right there sets the standard: party loyalty over principle. It's no wonder people are tuning out. When winning boils down to a single letter next to your name rather than values or vision, the party's essence has all but disappeared. These days, Harris discusses foreign policy, immigration, inflation, Biden, and various crises. But where was that integrity when she actually held the vice presidency, when she had the chance to make a real difference?
What do you think of him and his candidacy? And what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported.
Do you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure.
Where was her courage? She stayed quiet, hid in Biden's shadow, and relied on blind loyalty instead of speaking out. Now, she's finally finding her voice, but it's convenient, political, and ultimately, too late. Ultimately, this text does nothing to inspire confidence. There's no evidence of growth, no indication that she's ready to lead. Instead, it only confirms what voters already suspected. Kamala Harris comes across as a morally hollow politician, one who avoids decisive stances, offers no solutions, and provides no proof to back her claims.
She decided for some reason now would be the time, instead of when she was actually running for president, to say all the ways in which she disagreed with Joe Biden and all the bad things she thought about the Biden team. Great. Okay. I'm here for it, sister. Go. I believe every word, by the way. So it's really been super fun to watch the circular firing squad amongst the Dems. Usually they're a little better about holding their discipline on that. It's usually the Republicans who do all the infighting. So I'm thrilled to see it, and I really can't wait until her next appearance. I can't wait to hear what she has to say next.
That's going to be hard to get rid of. They tried. But, it's like you don't need 100 days. You need 107 days. You tell people your plan. This is what I am for. This is my thing. You're selling something. You're selling a vacuum cleaner. If I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, I'll tell you why I think it's best. Am I going to tell you every goddamn day for 2 years? Did I tell you about the attachment that gets under the... Yeah, you did. You told me 1,000 times.
That's why she lost in 2024. So, what does all this mean for Democrats? Quite simply, they're at a crossroads. They have two paths. Either they wake up, refocus, and actually fight on the issues that matter: foreign policy, immigration, the economy, and crime, areas where Republicans are currently dominating, or they continue chasing anti-Trump hysteria, fueling culture wars, and nominating candidates who struggle to connect with voters. And perhaps Bill Maher is right. Even if Trump's popularity dips, Americans are still feeling inflation's bite and chaos is everywhere. This could be more than a simple electoral setback for the GOP. It might signal a deeper structural threat. So, what do you think? Is Kamala Harris's book just another ineffective excuse? Can Democrats turn things around before it's too late, or are we watching a party slowly unravel as it loses sight of its core principles? Share your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely love to hear your perspective. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe for more analyses like this, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next breakdown. Political drama isn't going anywhere, and you'll want to stay tuned.